Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Essential Health Podcast series. I'm your host, Yaji Lee. In this series, I share practical and accessible tools to support your well being and to help you navigate the real life challenges that we all face. Today, we are going to be talking about something that impacts almost every part of our lives, which is work life balance. Now, this is one of those topics that it sounds pretty simple. We hear it all the time, but in reality, it can feel incredibly complicated, especially depending on the season of life that you're in. So, first, let's talk about what work life balance really actually means and how to know if you have a good work life balance. So when we hear the word balance, we often picture a perfect 50-50 split of, work and your personal life. Work on one side and life on the other. So everything is evenly managed. But balance doesn't necessarily mean equal. It's really about equilibrium. And it's about whether your professional responsibilities and your personal life, they feel somewhat manageable and aligned with what matters most to you right now. And that's the key is right now because balance shifts. Um, as a mom myself, I've had moments where I have thought I was managing everything really well. I was meeting my deadlines. I was staying productive, answering all my emails. And on the outside, it probably looked like I had it all under control. But, I remember one evening very clearly. I was home, I was physically present, but mentally, my brain was still at work. I was half listening to my child. I was checking something on my phone, thinking about all the things that I had to finish, all the deadlines that I had later that week. And my daughter was asking me for something very simple. She was just talking to me. And I just remembered I had no patience for anything that she was asking of me. Um, and it really wasn't because she had done anything wrong. It was just because I was mentally so exhausted. I did not have the bandwidth to sit and talk to her and be present with her. And that's the moment that really made me pause. I wonder, even though I was technically getting everything done, I wasn't fully present anywhere. I was carrying my work into family time, and then I was feeling guilty for doing that. Um, and whenever I was at work, I wanted to be home. And that's kind of where I started asking a different question. Now, instead of, am I doing enough? I started asking myself, does this feel sustainable? And if you're wondering whether your balance is healthy, you might reflect on a couple of things. Do you have time for yourself, even in small ways? Do you have time for that self-care routine? Are you sleeping enough? Are you able to be present with the people that you care about, family or friends? Or does work dominate your thoughts even when you're off the clock? And if you constantly feel overwhelmed or stretched thin or unable to disconnect really, that may be a sign that your balance may need some adjusting. Now, the second part of this is what are the risks of having an unhealthy work balance? When imbalance becomes ongoing, it impacts more than just your calendar. Now, chronic stress can really affect your physical health. It disrupts your sleep, it weakens your immune system, and it increases your risk for conditions like high blood pressure or heart disease. And over time, that constant stress really takes a negative toll on your physical health. And on the mental and emotional side, this work life imbalance can lead to burnout and that deep exhaustion where motivation drops and even simple tasks feel really overwhelming and heavy. Anxiety can increase, So irritability also becomes more common, your patience gets thinner, and oftentimes people closest to us can feel the effects of your, patience getting thinner and all of that first. Now, there is also a misconception that working more always means performing better. But we all know that in reality, overworking often it reduces our focus, it reduces our creativity, and it really impacts our decision making ability. We tend to make more mistakes, we feel less clear, and eventually productivity actually starts to decline. And when there's absolutely no time left for your rest, for hobbies that you enjoy, or things that bring you happiness, we all know that your overall life satisfaction is going to decrease over time. And life can start to feel like a long to do list. You're not feeling that joy in the little things anymore. And I would say that for parents, especially, there can also be an added layer of guilt. I'm sure we've all felt it at some point where you're feeling like you're not really showing up fully at work or at home. And that emotional strain can really feel just as draining as the workload itself. And finally, I want to mention this is um, I want to talk about how we can improve our work-life balance. The good news here is that improving balance doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It often starts with small, intentional shifts. It might mean setting a clear end to your workday, whether that's physically closing your laptop and stepping away from your workstation. It might mean putting your phone in another room during family time so that you can try to be fully present with them. Or it could mean, taking a real lunch break instead of working through it and just setting aside the time to do that. It may also involve recognizing your limits and giving yourself permission to ask for help, whether that's delegating tasks when and if possible, saying no when necessary, and really understanding that protecting your energy, it's not selfish, it's being sustainable. And perhaps most importantly, regularly checking in with yourself, asking yourself, how am I actually feeling? Not how you think you should feel, not how you appear to others, but honestly and internally just checking in with yourself. Work-life balance, it's not about doing less. It's about being intentional with your time, with your energy and your attention. It's about making sure that your success at work, it doesn't consistently come at the expense of your well-being or your relationships. And I think that as a mom, I've learned that being fully present over shorter periods of time it's far more meaningful than being distracted for longer ones for myself and for, my family. And sometimes that balance, it's not going to be perfect. It's really just choosing what matters most in that moment. It's prioritizing. And I would say if you are struggling to find that balance, you don't have to navigate it alone. You can contact your employee assistance program for confidential resources that can help you support managing all of your stress, preventing burnout, and just building sustainable habits for yourself. And so, with that, I want to conclude today's podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that this conversation gives you space to reflect and maybe gives permission to make that one small shift towards giving you a better work life balance. On behalf of everyone here at Essentra Health, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.